People know what I mean by folk medicine? Okay. Go off to the jungles of New Guinea and look at what they do when somebody is sick. How do they treat a fever? And then bring it back into the lab and say, okay, why does this work? Does it work? And if so, why? One of the most famous examples is the drug curare. It is a poison used in the Amazon rainforest on dart guns, right? But it's also now used to treat heart problems because they looked at how it was being used as a medicine in small doses as opposed to as a poison to kill animals and said, why does that work? Lots and lots of medicines have been discovered this way. Right? What I see increasingly in software engineering research is people doing this with software engineering practices. Let's go out and see what works in the field, bring it back in the lab, compare A to B to C, see what the common thread is, see if we can refine it. A little bit of humility. Instead of preaching and saying, here's how you should develop software, go and measure things, or at least study them and see what works, and bring it back. Well, you knew I was going to try to sell you something. That book has just come out. Andy Orm and I did the editing. I didn't write any of it, but I twisted arms to get people to contribute. This is a lot of the leading researchers writing I'm not going to call it a popular essay, but certainly the level of New Scientist magazine. Something for an informed lay reader about their research. What do we actually know? Right? Joe Ashkin Hanning. Personality, intelligence, and expertise. Let's give a whole bunch of programmers personality tests and see how that correlates with their productivity. Are introverts better programmers? No. Are extroverts better programmers? No. Does self-confidence make you a better programmer? Oh, yeah. Right? I mean, this is interesting. Right? What happens, and this is where it gets really interesting, if I'm going to pair you up and you're going to program in pairs, should I look for personalities that are as similar as possible or as dissimilar as possible? Which one's going to be better? Makes no difference. Right? There was a study done in Greece, done badly, by the way, that said, yes, the more dissimilar the personalities, the more likely they are to actually talk and argue, the better the coding will be. So Hanning went back and did the study properly with a much larger number of people over a much larger period. Not only did he not see a signal, he can explain the fault in the original study. Okay, that's good. That's science. I like it. Okay? Mark Guzdiel. A really, really solid research scientist. Why is it so hard to learn how to program? Lots of people are out there saying we need more IT in schools, we need to teach more computer science, we need to this, that. I don't know if you know this, but the number of people entering computer science programs in university today is about half of what it was in the year 2000. It's about 55%. Okay? It dropped precipitously after the dot-com boom and has stayed low, even though there are lots of jobs. Except in South Korea, where the numbers climbed steadily all the way through the dot-com boom. That's the only industrialized country that didn't see a drop, and nobody knows why. Nobody knows why the drop happened. Right? I mean, you can explain a slight dip right after the dot-com bubble because there's all these news stories about companies going out of business. But why has it stayed low in the face of so many job opportunities? Guzdiel can walk you through every single explanation that's been advanced and tell you why it's wrong. Okay? It's really cool to be able to say, here are some plausible explanations, and none of them are right. So the answer's got to be somewhere else. Right? Frustrating, but good science. Right? Always Clary. Some of these you have to be a bit of a geek. Why aren't more women in computer science? That's the Williams of Chechen Williams, the book I had up earlier. She and Michelle Whitecraft have summarized the evidence about why don't women go into computer science. The gender ratio is, depending on your school in the year, anywhere from 8 to 1 to 20 to 1 in the graduating classes. And it's actually been getting worse since 1990. Steadily, again, across pretty much every industrialized country, yes, including South Korea, the number of women going in is dropping. Okay, why? Well, they summarize the evidence. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay? I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want you to buy the damn book, right? But they say, here's what we know. Here's the pieces that fit together. If you're going to argue about this, please understand the evidence and then form your opinion. It's okay to disagree with them, but at least disagree in an informed manner.
Why does nobody has the same do the same thing for the opposite problem. Why aren't there more primary school teachers?
Oh, that study has been done. That study has been done, yeah. Texas Board of Education. Despite the fact that they're all creationists, they're not all stupid, right? No, but there have been studies about why have some disciplines, nursing is the other one, stayed predominantly female, even though today you will earn more as a nurse in Ontario than you will earn as a programmer. Steadier work, right? Because there's a shortage. Okay, so why is it stayed dominantly female? If you're a free market economist, you would say, well, there's a shortage, there's a market opportunity, of course people will go there, and it doesn't happen. Okay, what are the second order effects that are preventing that? Good chapter. Right? Jorge Aranda. What do we know about the layout of offices and the effect on productivity of programmers or any other intellectually demanding work? Long story short, we've got a trough. Over here, everybody has an office with a door that closes so they can concentrate. Over here, it's a real war room. It's a room like this, and we're all jammed together, and everybody is part of every conversation, so there's very, very high communication bandwidth. Those are both productive. You may prefer one or the other, but both will make you more productive than the middle case, which is open plan offices with those 3/4 height barriers, right? The cube farm. That is the worst of both worlds. You don't get the concentration advantages of privacy, but you can't really take part in all of the other conversations. You don't have the peripheral awareness, so you're not getting the increased bandwidth. The only thing you get more of here is fresh air. I'm serious, right? Lots of offices with doors that close, air volume circulation is hard in an office building. You're probably breathing somebody else's out-breath. It's bad, right? And we can't give everybody windows. In a building like this, we're not all going to have offices with windows. Over here, you've got a lot of people crammed into a room. Yeah, it's been pretty warm these last few days. The only thing you get here in the middle that you don't get elsewhere is more fresh air. That's it. Okay? Is that worth the lower productivity? I don't know. Are those results of those studies ever going to affect how universities lay out space? Yeah, come on. Skip over another one. Oh, here's a good one. Andy Bagel and Beth Simon. Qualitative study, but a rigorous one. 24 new hires at Microsoft. Follow them around for a year. Some of them have a bachelor, some have a master's, some have a PhD. What they have in common is this is their first industrial job. They have no previous experience in industry. Okay. What do we find? None of their 24 subjects encountered any technical challenge in that first year that they could not solve themselves. All of them stumbled and fell at least once, sometimes several times, over what, for want of a better term, we're going to call social challenges. How do I decide when to ask for help? How do I figure out who to ask? When is it okay to interrupt somebody else? How do I run a meeting? How do I behave in a meeting? How many of you have ever been taught how to behave in a meeting? How to run a meeting effectively? Okay, they get taught that in business schools, and that's why guys with MBAs run the world and we don't. It's because they're taught how to run the world. I'm not making this up. If you sit in a meeting of people who've actually been shown how to run a meeting effectively, you will be amazed at how much can get done, how quickly. Right? It's the difference between professional musicians who understand how to sit down, learn a song, and crank out the recording, and a bunch of hacks who've never been in a studio before. And you all know that there's not just a percentage difference there. I mean, we're talking factors of several large numbers there in terms of how quickly can we get something useful at the other end. Right? It's a learnable skill. It's not taught to academics. That explains a whole lot about what I don't like about universities. I'm being cynical, but it's a grounded cynicism. You've got a lot of very smart people, but they've never been shown how to run an organization effectively. Doing a really good thesis on medieval Latin doesn't teach you how to argue over a budget. Okay? Steve Clark. Steve McConnell, summarizing what we actually know about productivity. He and Lutz Perschelt tackled it from different directions. So why did we do this book? Well, knowledge transfer. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here I want you to know. And over Christmas, I'm going to be doing a series of blog posts on software carpentry summarizing these chapters in 3 or 4 paragraphs each. What's the takeaway from each? Right? I really want a better textbook. I teach software engineering at university. There are 2 standard textbooks, one by Pressman and one by Somerville, and they suck so hard. Seriously, they are so dry. They take this and they turn it into sawdust. And what I know is, even when the books are free, as they are for students who want to download it from the library, nobody reads it. Because it's like, why? We hope that by having the researchers say, here's what I'm doing, here's the result, isn't this cool, we'll get more people to pay attention. And ultimately, as with so many things, I just want to change the debate. I want to live in that world. Right? When somebody stands up and makes a claim of fact, and ignore the American flag, it is a universal phenomenon. When a CEO or a rock star from Ireland or a president or a chiropractor stands up and says, blah, blah, I want people to be in the habit of saying, can you ground that for me, please? Where's your evidence?